Hey everyone, and welcome back to Stamp with Anna. Today I'm going to show you a card we made at card class. We were playing with different ways to use Stampin' Up's vellum paper. And Stampin' Up's vellum paper is cardstock quality, so it's nice and heavy. It's not very flimsy, so it does hold up well, especially for this technique here. What I did here was simply embossed with an embossing folder this piece of vellum. This card is, I'm telling you, you can put it together, and it takes you longer to cut the paper than it does to put the card together. And the embossing folder that I used was the Lace Dynamic Impressions folder, and this is a dynamic impressions folder, so that means it's thick. And when you make your sandwich is your platform, your embossing folder, obviously with your vellum on the inside, and one acrylic plate. You only use one acrylic plate because the folder itself is thick. And dynamic embossing folders, you can see how deep their impression is. And I ran this through on plain white, Whisper White, so you could actually see it. The dimension is just phenomenal. It's just beautiful, and that's what works best when you're embossing your vellum. So what we're using for supplies is a note card, and I happen to use the note card set that comes, the note card with the envelope. They come in a package, and it's a very good value to get them together like this. But if you're making your own, this piece is, you would use thick Whisper White. This is 7 by 5 scored at 3.5. Then I have a piece of the new Highland Heather, which is cut 3 3/8 by 4 7/8. And then I have a piece of our heavy cardstock quality vellum, and this is cut at 3 1/4 by 4 3/4. And so what I'm going to do, I'm telling you, this is so fast. What I'm going to do, actually, let me put my my Highland Heather onto my card first. So I'm going to take my snail. I'm just going to put a little bit of snail, and I'm going to center this on my card. I just love this Highland Heather. It's such a pretty shade of purple. And again, I'm using a very narrow border. Now I'm going to emboss my vellum. And I want my design to go horizontally. So I'm going to slip my vellum in, and I'm going to center this. So I can see here that I have 4 of these circles, if you will. So I know that I'm centered horizontally. Then I want to also center it vertically, and I'm going to use the pattern as a guide. I can see that where my vellum ends is right under this curve up the top, and it's also right on that curve on the bottom. So I know that I have good centering. So holding it together so it doesn't shift, I'm going to close my folder. Oh, and it shifted. I'm going to close my folder, and I'm going to take this over to my Big Shot. Now, although this is 6 by 6, so it's going to fit through the Big Shot either direction. And although I want my design going horizontally, I'm going to turn my folder over so that the closed side, the folded side, is the first thing that goes through the embossing folder. My understanding, and I tend to agree, is that is how you get the best impression and how you keep your paper from cracking as well. So hold on, I'll be right back. Okay, so now I'm back with my beautifully embossed vellum, and all I have to do is attach this to my card. Now, those of you who have worked with vellum know that attaching vellum can be tricky because no matter what you use on the back, it shows through. I've seen it's like a strip, like a roll of tape, and you press it on you're supposed to press it on the back of the vellum really good, and then you peel it off, and it's not supposed to show. But guess what? It does show. So I have a tip for you, and I'm going to show you how simple this is and just how awesome it works. I'm going to take a little quartered sponge, And I'm going to take my silicone, make my liquid glue, and I'm going to make a little pile of glue right here in the corner. Don't need very much at all. And with the sponge, I'm going to just sponge on this particular one. I'm going to just sponge along the edges because I don't need to attach the inside. It's going to adhere. Make it a little tad bit more than that. And what I like about the silicone mat is that when this dries, and I'll show you that, it'll dry by the time we're done, you can just peel that right off the silicone pad. And then I'm going to center this up right there. And it's all adhered. And look real close. You cannot see my glue anywhere. See along here? There's no signs of glue anywhere. So all we have left to do is to add some pearls to it. And here I've got some pearls. I'd like something a little smaller than that. No. All right, I'm going to pop these 3 off. 1, 2, and 3. How beautiful is that? And didn't I tell you, it took longer for me to cut the paper than it did to actually emboss this and put together. It is just so phenomenal. Now, one other thing that I can add, and I think I'm going to, is I'm going to take my embossing folder and I'm going to emboss the flap of my envelope. Now, it's going to be a little tricky because I'm not going to be able to get a whole one of these in that flap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this up as best as I can right up to the edge of that fold, and then I'm going to go run this through. I'll be right back. And there we go. Although it's not the exact design of this, I still think it looks very pretty, and it'll make a very nice set when it gets mailed. So that's the card. Now I want to bring you back to my silicone pad. This is where I had the glue, and you can see it there. And I'm going to just take my finger and look at how quickly that comes off that pad. I mean, you couldn't get that any cleaner, any quicker than that. Look at how perfect that is. And there's no, oh, I missed a spot. And there's no leftover adhesive on this where I just cleaned, and it's good to go for my next project. And that's a great way to not get adhesive on your work surface. I don't know about you, but as soon as I get adhesive on my work surface, it's not a good thing. It's a disaster. So anyway, here we go. Here's our card and our matching envelope. How quick and easy. If you have any questions at all about this project or any of the products I used, please contact me, www.stampwithanna.blogspot.com. Thanks so much, and I'll catch you back here with another video soon.